It's time for some more ribs, but these ribs are going to be just a little bit different because I'm going to show you how to make my Bootlegger Bourbon Dry Rub. We're going to get these ribs seasoned up, we're going to take them outside, fire up the Lone Star Grillz offset, and smoke up some fantastic Bootlegger spare ribs. So in order to get to the ribs, we got to get this rub ready. And as I said, it's a Bootlegger Bourbon Rub. It has an interesting ingredient in it that I found recently and I've been trying and using, and it's really good. So first, we're going to start with 2 cups of brown sugar. Yeah, this is a sweet rub. I think it would actually work okay on certain kinds of beef, but it really, I think, is for pork. This would be great on any pork ribs, country-style pork ribs, pork loin, pork tenderloin, things like that. To this, I'm going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of celery salt. Next comes 1 1/4 teaspoons of kosher salt. And to kick it up a little bit, just a little bit, we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. To bring a little smokiness to this, I'm going to use 1 1/4 teaspoons of smoked paprika. In my opinion, you could use regular paprika, but really this smokiness adds so much to this rub. So if you can get smoked paprika, do it. Finally, 2½ teaspoons of bourbon powder. Yes, bourbon powder, that is a thing. If you get any bourbon powder and you smell it, you're gonna get immediately that hit of bourbon. And it's just a fantastic ingredient to bring in that flavor to rubs and seasonings, other things. But it is potent, you don't need a ton of it. That's why we're only using 2½ teaspoons here with this amount of brown sugar. Let's go ahead and mix this up. Now, without the bourbon powder, this would be a fine rub. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you can find it, and you can order it online, I'll put a link below to where I got it. It's not that expensive, and it really does bring a unique flavor to this rub. I want to make sure we mix this really well here. I normally put a lid on and shake it. I'm not going to do that because this is so full. So I just want to take my time, mix this really well. So let's go ahead and get a little taste here. It really feels like I just took a shot of bourbon. All right, I'm going to get this into a shaker, going to get the ribs in here, get those ready so we can get them out to the Lone Star Grillz offset. So here is one of the racks of spare ribs that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing 2 of them today. And I'm doing them as full spares. I'm not cutting these down to St. Louis. I'm not taking the rib tips off, squaring it off. We're gonna let these spare ribs be spare ribs in all their glory. These are the kind of things that my parents used to barbecue when I was a kid. I did a video about that and how it's a lot different than we make ribs now. I'll put a link up in the corner for you to see that. Now, I went ahead and removed the membrane. That's something I've done many times. I have a video on that too. I'll put a link in the video description to that. So we're just going to go ahead and get these seasoned up with our Bootlegger Bourbon Rub. That shaker's got a pretty small opening. I'm just going to switch doing a little bit by hand here. Sometimes that brown sugar clumps up a bit. If you've got a shaker with smaller openings. This is actually how I usually do rubs. I just sprinkle them on. I don't worry about a shaker. And if you were turning these into St. Louis cut spares, you'd be going right along here. Be saving all this good meat up here for rib tips. And give it a little sprinkling here, not a whole lot. And maybe a little more on this side. We will be putting some sauce on these later today, right about the time we're gonna wrap them. And we'll probably glaze them a little bit too near the end. All right, this rack is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and get the other one rubbed up, and then we're gonna head out to the smoker. All right, the Lone Star Grillz is up to temp. It's actually running a little hot right now. That'll change once we get this food on and we adjust the vents. We're gonna add some more wood too. Now this is the 20 by 42 offset that Lone Star Grillz sent to me, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months ago. I've been loving this thing. It is a tank. Now I added about a ½ gallon of water to the cook chamber. This cooker can hold water right in the cook chamber, up to I think 3 gallons or so. I also have the upper rack in here, even though I'm not really going to use it today. I just have my ambient temperature probe underneath that rack. That way I can slide this one in and out if you have that probe there and it clips down to get it kind of hung up. So let's go ahead and get these ribs on. Slide our rack in. All right, let's close this up and let these ribs get smoking. Let's get another piece of hickory in here. All right, let's close this up and get back to temp. So my target temperature today for this pit is 250 degrees. I'll adjust the vents as we go along, add wood as we go along. That hickory wood we're using is going to give us some great flavor with this Bootlegger Bourbon Rub today. So I'll see you out here in a couple hours when we check these ribs. All right, we are 2 hours into this cook. The temp's been going a little bit higher, about 275, 280. Got it back down to about 250 now. So let's check these ribs. Those are looking pretty darn good. I want to take a little closer look at these. I want to slide the bottom rack out, but I want to put a little tray here so that some of the drips can get caught. We're starting to get pullback from the bones here, so I want to do a quick little flex test. I know these are nowhere near done, but it may actually be time to wrap these. Yeah, we got some pretty good flex there for 2 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap these, put some sauce on them, get a little bit of moisture in there, and then we'll get them back on the smoker. Now I'm going to be saucing these and putting a little bit more moisture in here. The sauce I'm going to be using is a desert smoke sweet and spicy sauce. I picked this up at Whole Foods. It just looked interesting. And for moisture, I'm just going to use plain water. Just spray a little bit in here. We'll get this back on the smoker. And if you don't like sauce, you don't have to use sauce. I like sauce. Let's get this closed up and keep cooking. In about 2 hours, we'll check these. At that point, we'll probably unwrap them, put them back on the grill, glaze them a bit, let them finish up. So I'll see you back here in about 2 hours. All right, we've been going total 4 hours, 2 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped. It's time to unwrap these ribs, give them a little more glaze, get them back on uncovered to finish up for about an hour. Oh yeah, those are looking good. You can see that pullback we've got on the bones now, very tender. So what I'm gonna glaze them with is a mixture of that barbecue sauce I used, maybe, I don't know, half a cup, couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, tablespoon of honey, and a splash of bourbon. Just wanna give a little more flavor on these as we get them back on. I'm gonna temporarily set these on the upper rack. Are we tender yet? Oh, looking good. Same thing here, nice pullback on those bones. Get our glaze on here. Let's get this rack back on the bottom first. Move all this out of the way. From the state of tenderness that I see here, we're gonna go half an hour, 45 minutes tops. So I'll see you back here when these ribs are done. All right, we are at 4 hours and 45 minutes. I've just sort of let the fire die down here at the end. Let's see how we're doing I'm pretty sure we're done. Yeah, I'd say those are done. All right, I'm gonna get these off of here, get them inside, let them cool down for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we're gonna have a taste. All right, here are the finished Bootlegger Spareribs. They turned out really good visually. I mean, nice sort of red color there. Now, because these are full spares, cutting them straight across is a little bit of a challenge, but we're just gonna flip it over and get a good cut. We're just gonna go right here. We're gonna put some muscle into it. And then right next to it, let's flip everybody back over. Oh, hanging on there. Ah, there we go. Nice and juicy. Really good pullback on the bones here. I've got to say something about the Lone Star Grillz offset. This cook was 4 hours and 45 minutes. Normally spare ribs, when I do them, take anywhere between 5 and 6. These are kind of thin, they're not very thick, so I think I can attribute the shorter cook time to that partially. Also, my temperature was a little bit higher at the beginning, about 275, 280 versus 250, but that cooker is extremely efficient. For this 4 hour and 45 minute cook, I used 4 pieces of wood. And those were 4 half splits, which are anywhere from 8 to 10 inches long. They're not the full 16-inch splits. When you use that fire management basket in there, it really aids in the efficiency of cooking. So far, I am super happy with that cooker that Lone Star Grillz sent me. It is just fantastic. But now, it's time to taste. Now, I could put more sauce on here. I don't really think it needs it. I think we've got good color on the outside. It's moist. Let's just go for it. I like that rub, that Bootlegger Bourbon Rub. Oh man, the fact that you can get that bourbon flavor in a powder, no alcohol, really impresses me, and it does add something if you're trying to bring that to a rub or to some other sort of seasoning. I just stumbled upon it. I just had an idea and I went looking for it, and there's a lot of different places that make it. As I said, I'll put a link to the place where I got it in the video description if you want to try something like that. I'm liking it. Now, spare ribs sometimes get a bad rap because they're not baby back. Baby backs have that nice meat on them that really often it'll puff up, gives you a really good bite, or if you want it fall off the bone, you can do that. Spares have amazing flavor. There's good fat in here, and when you give it a good rub, some good sauce if you like sauce, some great smoke like hickory like I did today, it's just terrific. So I'm super happy with that Bootlegger Bourbon Rub that I mixed up. I'll be using that again. I may even try it on some beef, maybe a chuck roast. We'll see how that goes. But as for the spare ribs that I did out on the Lone Star Grillz offset, that rub, perfect. It is never a bad day when you have a rib this good.